Welcome to podcast episode number 21 of ISPC Tailboard Talks. I'm your host, Mark, and joining me today is my co-host, as always, Mr. Jerry Havens. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. Good to be here again. Just back fresh from the conference.
Had a good time there. It was a really, I would say, the smoothest yet. And so everything seemed to click along the way it should, and didn't notice too many road bumps in the week we were there. So yeah, it was good.
And if you're listening and you haven't listened to episode 20 yet, that was recorded at the conference, I highly recommend doing that one because it was very specific to hiring the military in our profession, and we have a retired colonel, light colonel.
Yeah,
Mike?
Lieutenant Colonel. There you go.
Lieutenant Colonel Eckart with us, retired. So we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. I'm excited about this one. As always, anytime we have guests, man, I get excited. It's not just me and you talking.
Education meets energy. So we're going to talk today. We have a couple special guests that are going to be with us today, and we're going to talk about college pathway, I guess you could call it, into the energy sector, right? Into the electric utility industry. And so looking forward to this one. I think you're going to have a really good conversation today. So
before we do that, we do have a new sponsor this week. Incident Prevention, IP Magazine, one of my favorite publications ever. And they were kind enough, so you don't have to listen to me. They were kind enough to send us a sponsor message. So roll it.
This podcast is sponsored by IP Institute. Develop your utility frontline leaders today at ip-institute.com.
Thanks, Jerry. Again, thanks to IP, great sponsor there. They do a lot for the industry, and they got their conference coming up here, not in the too distant future, last week of April in Charleston, South Carolina. So if you're looking for a really good conference, you might want to check that one out.
Yeah, and if you want to come hang out with me for a little bit, I'll be there. Doing my thing with T&D Power Skills. So
okay, let's jump into this thing. So today, like I said, we got two special guests with us. Terry Clinefelter, who's the department head for construction technologies at Oklahoma State University. How you doing, Terry?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Yep, glad to have you. And then we also have Mike Eckart, who's the training supervisor for Oklahoma Gas and Electric. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing just fine. Appreciate being here as well.
All right, good to have you. So I like to start out always with our guests, just to kind of tell us a little bit about your journey, right? How you got here, what got you into the industry, those types of things. You can share as much as you want or as little as you want. But Terry, go ahead. Why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
So my background is in residential and commercial construction primarily. I'm originally from Central Florida, moved up to Central Oklahoma about 16 years ago now. When I came up here, it was 2008, middle of the downturn in the construction.
Yeah.
And so young man looking for a job and found one here with Oklahoma State University in Oklahoma City, a 2-year technical college, teaching and doing hands-on training and education within construction, architecture, line work, surveying, pretty much anything that is hands-on. That was in 2009. I promised myself I was going to be here for 2 years and then get back out into the industry, because who wants to be teaching kids all the time? And then 16 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Oh, yeah. But no, I serve as the department head for the construction technology program. I oversee our high voltage program, and I still work in commercial construction on the side. So
awesome. Well, again, glad you're here and welcome. So how about you, Mike? Tell us a little bit about your journey. I know you've got all kinds of feathers in the cap. So
Yeah, I did some adding up just the other day, and I've been in the industry in and associated with the industry for over 40 years.
Wow.
So I went to lineman school in Bismarck in 1983. Who would think, huh? And then after that, I worked as a lineman for over 23 years
Okay.
for either a co-op or a municipal. After that, I went into education and taught at OSU, OKC full time. I have been there over 19 years now, so I've been associated with education and the industry for a long time. And then I came, from when I left full time at OSU, I came to OG&E, which is a great place to work. So, I've been around the horn, been with the school for quite a while, uh, been in the industry forever. So it's a good industry. Really
Yeah.
blessed to be part of it.
Yeah, I think we can all say that.
And Mike, don't forget, man. I mean, you didn't put your military service in there. Thank you for your service, Colonel.
Yeah, I retired about 4 years ago. I was in the Army National Guard, Army Reserves for 33 years. Been around the world a couple times, not by choice mostly. But I enjoyed that too, and it was a really good thing to be part of. So it's a good thing to be retired from as well.
Yeah. Nice. Well, welcome, Mike, again. We're glad you could join us. Both you and Terry, we're glad to have you, and so thanks again. So normally in our ISPC Tailboard Talks segment today, we're going to touch on training, since we're talking with two gentlemen with that we're going to talk a lot about the college aspect and how that links to the utility industry, and not that some of these things pertain to the college level, but just some things that OSHA requires from employers when it comes to training. And so the college obviously is the start of that, right? That's kind of the start of the education, right? Employers must provide training that's specific to workplace hazards. Obviously, at the college level, where they're starting with Terry and Mike, they're going to start to learn that evolution, right? And not necessarily, work with workplace hazards, but start understanding what that looks like. So, and then training must be provided in a manner that employees can understand. It's very important. We'll talk both to Mike and Terry about that and kind of their outlook on anytime you're doing training, whether it's at the college level or out in industry. The biggest thing in my mind is if the students that you're trying to teach aren't understanding, or the material or the knowledge isn't sinking in, then you're just going through the motions, right? And so it's a very important part that has to happen. And then another thing is retraining. So whenever things change, especially around procedures or new hazards, energy control, those types of things, the employer is required to retrain their employees. Employees working near energized parts must be trained in the safety-related work practices, procedures, and PPE. And only qualified workers can perform electrical work on or near energized parts. And so, Jerry chuckles.
That's the favorite word, man. That's
Yeah,
so deep.
we might touch on qualified. That could probably be a whole nother podcast episode if we get into qualified versus unqualified. So we might touch on that. I'm not sure we're going to go fully down that rabbit trail. And then, the last thing, training must cover the hazard recognition, arc flash hazards, safety approach distances. Workers also must be trained on PPE and how to properly wear it, its limitations, and how to maintain it. And so all this goes into what the employer is responsible to do for each of their employees. And that all starts from the day an individual steps into this arena or into the college arena to work towards transitioning into our industry. So I just kind of wanted to set that stage there as far as what training looks like in our industry.
Here's my thing, and the reason I'm really excited to talk to both of you guys, because you're Mike, you were on the training side, now you're on the utility side. Terry, you were on the work side, now you're on the training side. This industry especially has a unique opportunity with the line worker colleges, the community colleges doing line worker programs, and the the industry partners in the utilities and the contractors and the co-ops and the municipalities that get to be a part of that and say, okay, this is what everybody should know, but this is kind of what we would really like to. We're seeing a lot of this here. We need them a little extra trained on that. So I guess, Mike, let's talk about that on your side of it, on the utility side, how being an industry partner really can help. I guess you get with the college and help you get exactly what you need as an industry partner.
When we hire somebody, we always look to the schools now, because that's where it's easier to hire somebody with a little bit of background. This job isn't for everybody, and it's better for them to learn at the school if they don't like to do it than for us to hire somebody and find that out. But through internships and processes like that, we can really select a better pool of people to choose from as far as hiring. And I was really blessed in a lot of ways that I can work at the school, and I've got to see people climb their very first pole, and I've got to train them there, and I trained them here, and I got to see them make journeymen here at OG&E. So training is a big part of all that, and how they work together is a big.
Y'all have a great training yard over there at OG&E. Rebuilt twice, I think.
We're kind of right in that path.
Yeah. The first time I ever visited OG&E, Mike and the guys at OG&E are update partners for the T&D Power Skills program, and I got to meet Mike for the first time and visit the yard because we were going to do a training update. And that very night, they had just opened the yard, just moved in, everything got squared away. I think you were there, what, a week or so?
Yeah, our building updates, yeah.
Yeah, and that very night a tornado comes through. So I'm surprised that he let me come back and visit again.
Well, we had some good storm restoration training right in our very own yard.
Right.
So, Terry, how important is it to partner with someone like OG&E or a contractor and to be that, or to get that industry partner to be part of your program?
Well, I don't think I can underestimate or how important it is, because at the end of the day, the academic programs that we have here are working for the industry, right? The students come in and they take our training, but we look at our graduates as our product that's going out there. And so if our training and our education isn't in line with what industry is expecting, our graduates aren't going to find jobs. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. So it's not just working with one utility or one industry partner. We want to have a majority of them around the table. We want to be able to say that we're training and educating to meet all of their needs, and that's very difficult by the time you understand that we have a limited amount of time with them. We have to make sure that there's some general education knowledge that goes in there. And we have to understand that each one of those industry partners might approach something a little bit different. So we have to make sure that product, that graduate that we have, is going to meet everyone's need at the end of the day. And having an active partner like OG&E is exceptionally important, because they tell us what's working, what's not, and where that industry is going. We can't be training to meet the needs of industry current. We have to look at a few years down that road and what that requirement's going to be, and we have to target that, so that when our graduates come in, they're ready to hit the ground running, and be a meaningful addition to a crew or to an organization.
And what are some of the biggest challenges that you find with that? I mean, that's a tall order to plan for the future when this industry, Mike, you could speak to this too, changes so rapidly.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of difficulty making sure that we remain in alignment with industry, with federal regulations, updates when it comes to safety or compliance, anything like that. And that's why it's important to partner not just with industry partners, but also third-party training organizations that can help understand the direction that the industry might be going, and help us prepare for what that looks like in the following years. You know, what we've seen on the education side is a dramatic shift from where a lot of us came up working with our hands, working with our parents, you know, knowing what hard work is, right? To a new generation that might not have had that experience. And because of that, the first time they get on and they put on a pair of hooks, and you ask them to do something, and you ask them to work, that can be a eye-opening experience with them, and they understand that the rubber is going to hit the road pretty quick, and it might not be for them.
You know, this isn't an easy industry. Being a lineman is not an easy thing. And a lot of people think about, you know, going out and getting people's lights on and doing all that. But, you know, our linemen work hard. And most companies ask a lot of their employees. And they got it. You have to have a good work ethic to be in this business. You really do.
And yeah, and look, man, I've been out with crews when we've filmed updates and stuff, and I am by no means a lineman, but I grew up, you know, a farm kid. I'm used to working, but these guys make me like a full lunch in 110-degree weather, and then get up and climb the pole and change out a transformer, or you know, replace a pothead or whatever, and it's just like, holy carp, man, I can't. Like, my stomach hurt watching them climb.
Yeah.
Attention all utility professionals. Are you ready to transform your safety leadership culture? Introducing IP Institute's Frontline Leadership Program, a comprehensive training program that will elevate safety throughout every level of your organization. Led by one of the industry's premier leading minds, David McPeak, this program offers in-depth modules on leadership, human performance, and incident prevention. Frontline delivers key safety problem-solving skills, either in person, in an engaging, interactive classroom session, or learners can become safety superstars through our convenient video-driven online course. Don't miss your opportunity to take your organization's safety culture to the next level. Go to ip-institute.com and join the thousands who have built a powerful, sustainable safety culture with Frontline.
Kind of moving now from our Tailboard Talk segment into the true guest segment and talking with Mike and Terry. So we touched a little bit already on kind of the partnership between the utilities and the colleges, right? And the importance of making sure they align so that one, you guys know what you need to be focusing on, and two, so that they're getting what they need when they leave your institution, right? And so let's talk a little bit about curriculum, because even as a trainer in my world, right, we often struggle with relevant training or curriculum, right? So we're trying to do it in a safe environment, right? But we're still trying to be as realistic as we can. I mean, obviously, we want this stuff to simulate what they're going to run into in the real world as much as possible. So, what are some of those challenges from your guys' perspective to deliver a curriculum that kind of hits that mark, right? Engages the student, and then also gives them what they need, so when they take that next step into industry, they're prepared.
I kind of think one thing that really helps with our relationship with OSU OKC is that we do use the same curriculum. We are on the same page. You
Yeah,
know, a lot of times you may not get that lucky, and we pretty much know what the people from OSU are learning and what they should know. So that is a plus point, and we thank T&D Curriculum for putting that together and making that work. You know, because
yeah,
we basically use the same material.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's, you know, it is important that whenever we do go through a curriculum, you know, a change in what our educational classes look like, we're engaging industry partners, from the start. And it's a relationship where they'll come and say, hey, we see this, we see it's maybe not working. How can we look to modify it? And what classes do we need to add? I think one thing with this industry specifically is, we introduce students to the basics of the line worker industry from the get-go. And obviously everything within our yard, our training facility is de-energized. We don't have any live power associated with anything we're doing. One thing that we do want to make sure is that when the students step out, they keep that in the back of their mind, that while they're working in an area that is safe, that when they get into industry, that's not going to be the case. And so we make sure that we do as many of those industry standard safety processes that you would find in industry in our training, from tailboards before anyone starts work to making sure that they're wearing the proper PPE when they're doing the work, and make sure that they treat everything as if it could have voltage. Because the last thing I want to do is see someone develop a bad habit through one of our classes or our training programs and take that bad habit out there into industry and get injured. We really emphasize safety within all aspects of the program.
Yeah. Mike, now that you're on the, so you're on the employer side now, I would call it, because I'm sure every person you hire probably doesn't come from per se OSU or somewhere that is using the same curriculum. How do you vet those people?
That's a really good question. The majority of our hiring has been from the schools lately. I can
Okay.
tell you, the school in Dallas, and when you have the schools going on, it kind of gives you a better pick. We do hire occasionally off the street, but that happens very, very little anymore here.
Okay.
And usually we don't hire right off the street. Usually, if we hire off the street, it's for our network crews downtown, and they've hired people with no experience. But as far as linemen go, there you can have a pretty good pick because there's a lot of schools producing a lot of linemen out there.
Yeah.
And Mike, you've been instrumental in a lot of the schools in Oklahoma having good line worker schools, and specifically, so just to kind of put this in perspective, this is not that altruistic me saying this. ISPC offers a grant of the T&D Power Skills System to nonprofit educational institutions. So, and Mike, being on the Users Development Board of T&D Power Skills for so long and is so familiar with the program, knew about the grant because of the OSU OKC and has put that out there. So he's basically built himself a little network of people that he can hire from, that he knows what they're going to know, immediately knows what they're going to know.
Yeah.
That grant is really helpful, because we work with not just OSU, but we work with a lot of the tech centers around that want to start lineman programs. And, it's really easy to sell something that's free. And, and it's a good product.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so, kind of to draw it together on the back end here, I think, we in this industry do something that maybe a lot of industries don't, right? And so, you can go to school or go to college for anything under the sun, right? There's hundreds of avenues that you can choose if you're going to go to furthering education or college or whatever the case. But I think, and we do the same with ISPC TD Power Skills that, Jerry mentioned the user development board. We work with industry professionals to make sure that our curriculum in that T&D Power Skills platform is what the industry needs, right? It's no sense developing a curriculum that we think's good if the industry doesn't agree, right? And so I think that's a key here with our industry is how we work together to make sure that each other is supporting each other in what they need and what they're looking for, and making sure that everything is going in the same direction, not against each other. So, yeah, great.
when I get invited out to the user development boards for like a lot of the tech centers, the first thing they start talking about is curriculum and how much everything is going to cost. And I'm very, very familiar with T&D curriculum, and I by no means hold back and
Right.
say, hey, I think I have something in your price range.
Yeah.
And I've seen the tech school automatically change from one direction where they were going and went, oh, and there you go. Then I tell them to call Jerry.
Yep.
Well, and it's, you're tasked with this. Hey, build this car. Some of these parts are here. We don't know if we have the right parts to do it, but we need this car built,
Hmm.
right? And then tell guys like Terry, like, just figure it out, man.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden somebody's got it, comes by with a used car lot and says, hey, we've got this Corvette that we could sell you for really cheap.
Yep.
Well, and it's not that it, like, part of it is that it's already out there, right? And like, from the education or from the campus's standpoint, to create curriculum, you have to have an industry expert to do it, right? They have to understand how to do it effectively. You have to have those wraparound services, so the videos, the readings, the assessments, all of that has to be done, and it has to be done in a way that builds upon itself, and that's very costly.
Yeah.
But through T&D, because we're able to have something that is a canned curriculum that is used by industry partners, that is used nationwide, it allows us to understand that we're hitting the metrics that are needed, but also that it's going to be able, that student is going to be able to find employment, not just locally with OG&E or other utility providers, but also out of state, because it's going to be a recognized curriculum that they've gone through, that there is going to be some transferability when that student steps out. If they go to travel or they go to take a job out of state, they can have that conversation with that employer, and if they're using the same training, there's a base level of understanding and knowledge and credit that can be transferred.
You touched on it a little already, Terry, but in our industry, right, there's training, or
Mm-hmm.
there's classroom instruction, right? And then there's hands-on, or there's competencies, right? And I can't stress enough how important those competencies are to ensure that the individuals leaving your program, or whether it's a employer's program, even if it's not T&D Power Skills, right? Just can't stress enough the importance of those competencies, and ensuring that the employer can make a educated decision on whether or not these individuals are truly qualified or not. And so maybe talk just a minute about that and what you guys do to ensure that competency piece, right?
Well, so you have a lot of different avenues. You can have the career tech system, which is doing training associated with technical skills. You can have 2-year associate's degrees like we have, which is the same technical education and training, along with general education coursework that you'd find in any other college. When we look at, say, our technical side, all of those classes have a lab or a hands-on component. And most of the time, that hands-on or that lab component is more time than you would see having that student in the classroom setting. They always go hand in hand, so you're talking to the student about the theory and what they're going to be doing and why they're going to be doing it and what's important. And then you take them from that classroom setting and you go to the yard. And that hands-on ability to apply what they just learned in the classroom and just talked about and just watched a video or had a story from an industry partner, and now they're applying it out there in the training yard with the tools that you would find in the industry and the current processes that you would find in the industry. That really helps solidify that education. You can teach someone to do something, and they can reproduce that process time and again. They might not know why they're doing it, right? And we want to make sure it's not that we're not pushing out people that just know how to do something, but know why they're doing it, because that's a much more useful graduate for industry if they're able to stop and say, wait a minute, now this is why we're doing this, but this situation's a little different. This has changed. Does that now change what I need to do? It's
Yeah, and that's going to change all through. One of the biggest things of our industry is change, right? There's
Mhm.
never, you can do the same task on 10 different job sites, and there's going to be 10 different contributing factors, right? And so, to your point, hey, I can pump this task out one after another, but the unfortunate thing is we're not out here building widgets, right? We're working in dynamic work environments that are constantly changing, and the ability of these students to shift gears on a moment's notice is very important to the industry.
And Mike alluded to it before, but we kind of serve as a filter for industry.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be the first ones to put a set of slapsticks in a kid's hand and teach them how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And someone can go through, they can go through and they can get into an interview or get into a position where, you're not able to see what they can actually do, right? And so we're providing that filter for the industry. And if they don't know, it's not like we just tell them to like pack up and walk off. We'll teach them, but the training and the hands-on part of the program is hard. The kids are climbing poles from the very first. We get them out there in that very first class, and if they're not climbing, they need to be doing something on the ground to stay active. They need to be working. When I walked in today, we're rolling up on the end of our 8-week semester, and the kids are out there with shovels and rakes, and they're cleaning up the yard, and they're getting everything back together. Just because it's the end of the semester doesn't mean the work's done. That's if you're not doing something, you need to be moving, you need to be helping.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that you can have the best curriculum in the world, but this isn't an industry where you can learn how to be a lineman from a book. The
Yeah.
hands-on portion is the most crucial portion of it all. I mean, you just can't learn that from a book.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And most of us, I'd say most of us, most of the people in the industry did not get into this industry because they like sitting behind a desk or in front of a computer all day. They're hands-on people. I mean, most of these guys were, not good at taking tests in school or, they're, heck,
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that you put me in front of something, I have to break it down before I break it down, put it back together, figure out where those extra parts came from.
Yeah.
Kind of guys. So it's a hands-on industry. And what I love about it is you say you start them climbing out immediately. You start them climbing poles immediately. Back in a past life, I used to talk to high school kids all the time about their career path, and have a lot of people say, "Well, yeah, I want to be a nurse, go to nursing school." Well, I got a chance to see one of these nursing students, these future nursing students, a couple of years later, and I was like, "Man, how's the nursing thing going?" So, man, I got to clinicals and figure out I had to clean up puke all day, and I was not into it anymore.
Yeah.
So they wasted all that time in education. Got to that point and said, "Oh, this is not for me."
Yeah.
Whereas in this industry, pretty quick if it ain't for you.
Yeah.
We're really Terry and I both do, OG&E and OSU. We both do a lot of workforce development programs, and we work a lot with the high school kids. And we have a camp that's coming up here in June, and so we do a lot of work. And a lot of young people don't even have that idea of working in the industry. Even it never has dawned on them, but we're able to instill that pretty early and give them an idea of which direction they want to go if they want to do this or not.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at the job this institution has and working for the industry, it's not just educating the kids that are going to be out there on taking those jobs over the next few years. It's introducing the career pathway to young people. That camp that we deal with, we'll have 100 young people coming here for a week-long camp, and we teach them about construction pathways, surveying pathways, lineman pathways, right? We're introducing them to the industry, and thanks to industry partners that come in, like OG&E and others, they're bringing in equipment, they're bringing in personnel, and they're doing it so that these young people can say, hey, that person looks like me, that person has the same background as me, and that person says this is a good career pathway. Maybe it is for me. And introducing or exposing those young people to different options. My expectation is a lot of people out there in the industry, regardless of what it is, got their start because someone, a father, a brother, or an uncle, was said, hey, this is a good path. Well, that's not every young person has that person in their life that will say, hey, have you thought about this? Maybe this is where you want to go. So it's all kind of a wraparound services that you have to provide.
And I think overall as an industry, we've done the worst part that like you never see anybody saying, or hardly ever. Now you do more, but like 5 years ago, you didn't have the line worker option in there. It didn't seem like. I mean, it was just like, well, I'll be an electrician or a plumber, or I'll go work a welder or boilermaker or whatever. But I never, in all those years working with high school students, had them say, "Yeah, I want to be a lineman," unless they had a parent, uncle, grandparent, somebody in their family was a line worker.
We at OG&E, we are giving tours through the local high schools, and we do about one a week here, and we rotate the high schools around the city, and we give them tours of our facility just to expose them, not just to the line worker skill, but they tour our training sub. They get exposed to different areas of OG&E where there is a good job. And so we're pretty busy every spring and every fall giving tours to high school students. And Terry and those guys have been invited over for that as well.
How has that helped? How has that changed your hiring pool or and Terry, maybe you've gotten some off of that too. How has that made you guys more visible?
Well, I think, in terms of working with industry partners when they have young people coming out, taking a look, if we go down to OG&E's training facility where they're hosting these high school kids, right? They're able to walk through and see what industry has in a capacity that we can't reproduce here at the campus, right? So they're able to see the size and the scope of what this industry entails, and that gets them excited about these different career pathways. And then we come in and we talk to them. Hey, there's a lot of ways to get into the industry, and one of them is through a program like we have, right? And so there's programs at OSU OKC, there's programs at OSU IT out there in Okmulgee, and then the career techs have educational programs too. And what I think is important, be it at the camp or be it at those events, is you don't tell a young person this is the only path you can take to get into the industry. You just say these are the paths. Now, which one's going to fit you? Because this industry wants you to get into it. They want you to be part of it. How can we help get you to that point?
Is there, I guess you could call them barriers that you guys see in attracting new students? Like, I mean, what you guys are doing there is great. And, I know there's other organizations out there that do outreach and work with the local high schools and technical schools and colleges and so on. And it's extremely important. But, you know, what else can we do, right? If we're not if we don't have that luxury, right? What are we missing? Is there something standing in our way from attracting these folks to our industry? Because let's face it, we are in a huge deficit in our industry, right? I saw some statistics just recently, to complete the anticipated work that's coming down, the next 5 to 10 years, we're 50 to 60,000 workers short. And so, while organizations like OG&E and OSU and like I mentioned, there's others out there that I know about are doing their part. What else can we be doing to drive interest towards the line worker profession?
What I think is like all these, if you're a subcontractor or a utility provider or, even you supply material in this industry, right? You need to get out there and you need to be a spokesman for it and you need to get involved. And it's not just on the line side. I see it in construction every day. A lot of these individuals will acknowledge there is a problem with our industry in attracting young talent, right, and young people. But that's where that conversation stops, right? They don't get involved. I mean, there's plenty of avenues you can get involved. My expectation is you look around, you can host people on your facility. You can partner with 2-year and 4-year and career tech educational providers to give them your expertise, give them your time when they have young people. If you want to see this industry continue and flourish, you're going to have to invest. And it's not money. Invest your time. Like, as much contribution as we get from our industry partners, I'd rather have Mike talking to a group of young people than just getting a check, because that check can keep the lights on, but Mike is going to inspire that. And then the other aspect from the research we've seen is that parents or individuals who are helping to make the decision for these young people during as they're kind of coming out and saying, what do I want to do? They don't have the information either. They look at this industry and they view it as just hard, dangerous work that you're going to do if you don't have any other options, right? And while it is dangerous work, there's a lot of safety processes that are put in place to try and mitigate those dangers, right? And a lot of the parents that we talk to, they don't want their kids going in some of these career pathways where their kids might get hurt, right? So we need to highlight how safe and the steps that we take to recognize the danger and mitigate those dangers. Don't lie to them. Don't say, oh, no, it's perfectly fine. You have to be honest with them, but let's be honest and actually tell them what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Some people think that this career path is unattainable. I mean, it's just like you have to be really technically, capable of doing things, and it's not. It's not that tough of an industry, but you have to know what you're doing. It's a professional industry, but people have kind of set this industry aside, like there are those guys in those trucks that know everything about electricity. That's really not the case. You can be taught, and it's not that thing that's just set aside for experts. You can become the expert.
Mm-hmm. And just to put it into perspective, 50,000 or 60,000 people short in this industry. The average professional football stadium is 60,000 people. That's how big of a gap we have to fill as an industry of people. So, the next time you watch the Cowboys or I think Soldier Field is the smallest stadium with a capacity of 61,000. I was looking that up because I was like, man, that's a lot of people. How many is that? 61,000 people in a football stadium.
Yeah, and the other important thing to understand is if you can introduce a young person to this career pathway, and you take someone, and we work in Oklahoma City metro area, and we see a lot of young people that come in from economically depressed communities. Like, we all know these career pathways pay, and they pay well, right? And at the end of the day, you get a young person who, maybe they've been on the line of poverty their entire life, and you get them into a career pathway like this, you're not changing that one person's life. You're changing their entire family's life, generation after generation, because now that person can afford, the better things for their family, afford to send their kids, afford to feed their kids. You want a reason to do something. You're bringing up your entire community when you introduce someone to these career pathways.
Sounds maybe like one of the pieces we might be missing in all this is educating everyone else beside the potential student, right? Like maybe we need to be doing more outreach to, to the adult level. I think our industry is doing really well, and you guys mentioned a lot of the things that you're doing to bring potential students in and let them see this stuff and put their hands on it, talk to people in the industry, and so on. But for those folks that don't have that known mentor, right, whether it's a family member or a friend or somebody that has taken them under their wing, maybe one of the missing pieces is we need to do a better job educating everyone else to make them understand that with the proper training and with the proper support network around you, this is not as dangerous of an industry as people make it out to be, right? And so, I think, maybe that's somewhere we need to focus as an industry moving forward. So,
Well, one of the biggest impacts is when OG&E brings those groups of high school kids into their facility, right?
yeah,
They have the teachers and they have the high school counselors with them. And
gotcha.
so the conversation and the education that's going to those high school kids, it's going to those teachers and counselors too. And those
Yeah,
teachers and counselors have more of an impact with those young people
yeah,
on a day-to-day basis, and you really understand.
yeah,
I think we've had a big plus when doing those tours and stuff is that we've had the same teachers come back a couple of years in a row now, and they're starting to see that it is beneficial to give kids an option.
yeah.
So, Mike, you've been doing it long enough now, as far as on both sides of it. Have you seen that generational change yet from someone that's come in and started, and you obviously from a lower socioeconomic class, that they've changed, like everything's changed about how they perceive life now?
Well, when Terry was talking about that, I did have that exact situation where a friend of the family came up to me and said, he goes, that kid got a job at OG&E and it's because he went to school. And he said, he is the only kid in his family that has ever graduated college. And it's been a life-changing thing, not just for him, but for his family. And that was probably one of the best things that I've ever heard, that you could not only help just that student, but you could help that family.
Absolutely. Generational changes, something cool.
How about changes or improvements? What do you guys, is there anything you guys see that needs to change in line worker education? Um, is there anything out there that we're kind of missing the mark on? I mean, I know we work a lot together with the industry and the schools and so on, but is there things you guys would like to see change for the better?
I think the newer technology out on the line, OG&E is all about fortifying its system and getting it up to standards, and with the new equipment out there to minimize customer outages and stuff. We need to have some in-depth training on all of that at an earlier level, probably.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of new technology out there to keep the lights on, but the more training we can have earlier, the better off we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that making sure that we integrate that the technology into the training is important. Again, look at the shifts in industry, where they're going. How much of I think I saw there was a state bill or something about how many millions of dollars are going to be going to put, lines underground instead of having them above ground for, resilience. Make sure that stuff's communicated. The other aspect of what I would say is we need to make sure that when we're looking at these educational programs, that as an industry, we have more standardization about what quality looks like, right?
Hmm.
And so we have a lot of two-year associates programs, we have for-profit training programs out there, and we have career tech training programs out there. And while you have industry material like T&D that's out there to help facilitate what good training looks like, you also have programs that aren't using that training, and that you have programs that might have a faculty member in there that maybe they're not from the actual line side teaching a class. You know, and are they really teaching what industry is needing if industry is not involved? I would say what I've seen in other educational areas like construction, architecture, and surveying, there's industry standard for education. There's third parties that come through and say, this is what is needed. This is the bare minimum. This is what you should be teaching. I think that's going to be the next step for this industry, is to get that third party that can help guide these educational programs along with industry to say, hey, this is what it needs. This is what it needs to look like. This is what you need to be doing.
A large problem, part of the problem that this industry has, though, is that if you get a lot of guys that are still young enough to work that, can go out on the line and make more money than they can teaching, or even being a foreman sitting in the truck, guiding the guys, they're still going to make more than they could as an instructor. So I think we need to maybe look at, and I don't know how this would happen, but maybe kind of reform what you're paying your instructors. Teachers actually making a decent wage? Huh, shocking.
Well, the other thing you could do that might be much more logical is if you would have some industry partners, like in this case between OSU and OG&E, and I know Mike has done this, allow, hey, maybe for a couple weeks out of the year, allow one of your employees that wants to be or have a say in that education side of things to go assist the college, right? Or teach at the school and those type of things, right? So you're not necessarily giving up your job at the utility or the contractor or such, but that employer is allowing you to give back, right? To share. We talk so much about in our industry the need for our seasoned employees, our experienced employees to give back and teach others and give their knowledge to others before they, move on to the next chapter of their life. And you're exactly right, Jerry. I mean, I don't know that you will ever pay an instructor what you're going to pay a lineman, right? It's just kind of not going to happen. And so maybe we just need to look at a different avenue or avenues to make that happen. So I guess last question, and we might have touched on a little of this already, but like if, and this might be a little more for Terry just because you're in the education side right now, but, Mike, please chime in as well. But where would you like to see training go in the future, right? We all know it can get better. Not that it's bad now, but I'm one of those people that strongly believe that we can always do more, right? There's always room for improvement. So, if you had your, money ain't an option, resources ain't an option, where would you like to see this evolution of training go in the future?
Well, I think there's two parts. And, to start, we need to look at really encouraging the public education system at the like K through 12 level, right? To get training programs like this or hands-on training programs back into the high schools, right? The career techs do it in a way, but our high school systems had shifted so far away from hands-on career pathways. And we, the idea that everyone should be going to college, that's gone, right?
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone working at a college, right?
Yeah.
We need to understand that whatever that career pathway looks like for a young person to get into careers that are going to pay, we need to support that, right? And we need to do it earlier. Like if I see a junior and a senior and they haven't made up their mind on where they're going, well, they've also not taken the steps to make sure they can get to that place, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's too late for them by any means, but it's very important that we have these conversations with them when they're ninth grade, 10th grade. We introduce these career pathways to them. And then if, there's a lot of free time in the high school schedule, go ahead and get some of these training programs in classes going with them that can then apply to college programs or career tech programs or certificate programs. And that's on the high school system and the college system and the career tech system to come to the table and understand that we need to lay out pathways for these people into these industries. And it starts in the high school and it flows wherever it flows. But we need to have that conversation, and we're not. If money's not an issue, I want to see the most current equipment and materials and technology out there for my kids to use. And that is nowhere in the realm of possible given the cost of this equipment, right?
Yeah.
We make our one-time purchase each year, and we have to look to say, all right, what do we want, right? And you're saying, all right, I need two things, but which one do I have to have?
Yeah.
If industry, we've had industry come in, Skylift came in and they knocked off a whole lot of money for a piece of equipment we just got in it for our backyard unit. Industry needs to understand that if you want this next generation to work with your equipment, right, out there in the field, they need to start at the high school, the career tech, and the 2-year college level. And so you need to be supporting these programs because, we can't afford to just go out and outfit it the same way that an industry partner is going to outfit their crew. We're not making that money.
Yeah.
And also for the big manufacturers out there that have all the money, like the Terex and the Skylifts and stuff like that, guys, these kids now, these apprentices will someday be journeymen and then foremen and then managers and then purchasing directors and guys with the checkbook. So you're building your future sales by helping out a little bit.
Well, I'll take it one step further, right? With the kids we're seeing now, a lot of them haven't ever picked up a tool prior to getting to our program, right? And so what I'll tell all those hand tool manufacturers, do you want the first time a person who's entering this career to pick up a tool, do you want it to be your brand, right? And so, they might have multiple options out there, but they got trained on this, right? That is, I understand what it is. There's a cost to you donating that equipment, but you're incentivizing that young person to what that brand should look like from here on out.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
And one thing that I'd like to add is that it's really important for us, and Terry's touched on a little, is that we get the idea of working in this field out to people really early, because we want to represent the communities that we serve, and that's really an important thing. And that each community, every part of it is represented in our workforce and recruited into. So that's an important thing.
So
yeah, perfect. Well,
awesome, guys.
That's all the questions I have. Awesome conversation, and I guess any last things, Terry, Mike, you guys want to, any parting words or parting comments? The floor is yours for the next couple minutes.
I mean, the one thing I would say is obviously, y'all have a wide reach with your podcast, and it's going to go out to a lot of different industry partners. If it goes out and there's ever a time to ask questions or get help, reach out to someone in an educational program. Reach out to myself, reach out to folks at OSUIT, reach out to, none of us are in competition with each other, right? I'm more than happy to help any program out there if they need guidance or they have questions about what works and what doesn't. We need to just keep that conversation very fluid so that all the programs are brought up and we are better able to serve this industry.
Yeah. Mike, anything?
Well, this is my first podcast, so I'm not like Terry. I do appreciate the fact that you asked me to be on, and it's not as bad as I really envisioned.
Well, Mike, you got a face for radio. I know that much.
Yeah. I am one good-looking guy.
Well, now I can hopefully we can talk you into maybe being on in the future. I've been after Mike probably for 6 or 8 months now to be on here. And so I finally, I don't know, maybe Terry, you were the key. Maybe he, well, if Terry can do this, I can do it. So,
Well, he did threaten me, and he is a lot bigger than I am.
Yeah, and the other part of it, I have the unique ability to make most anyone else look better than myself. So
nice.
IP Institute's Frontline program, empowering utility professionals to lead with confidence and safety. Visit ip-institute.com to start your journey today.
All right. Now, last sponsor message done. I have to do my bit and tell you that the views and opinions shared in this podcast are the personal viewpoints of the participants and may not necessarily reflect the stance of the Institute for Safety and Powerline Construction or its staff. It is highly advised to consult your company management before implementing any actions or policy changes. And please support the sponsors bringing this content to you. For more episodes of ISPC Tailboard Talks, subscribe in your favorite podcatcher and be sure to leave a review. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry.
Until next time.
Till next time, Mike, Terry, really appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to kind of share, things coming from the college level and even from the industry level. Mike, in OG&E, you guys are a great partner of ours. Terry, you guys are a partner of ours, and hopefully you consider us a good partner both at ISPC and T&D Power Skills as well. And look forward to continuing our partnership with you guys and appreciate everything you guys do for our industry.
And if you're listening and you're a nonprofit educational institution and thinking about starting a new line worker program, give Mark or myself a holler. We'd love to talk to you about the grant that ISPC offers of the T&D Power Skills program. If you are an industry partner or if you're a contractor, utility, municipality, and you're interested in a good training curriculum, hit us up as well. So, sorry, shameless plug.
Nice. Well, again, till next time on the ISPC Tailboard Talks, I'm your host, Mark, and we will see you next time.
see you guys.